Briefing, October 29, 2024. Subject, Overview of New York Times reports. 1. Former U.S. Embassy staff in Yemen have been detained by Houthi forces and forced to confess to espionage in a propaganda video, raising international concern. 2. Trump continues to engage in various new business deals after leaving office, violating the ethical standards he set during his presidency, which has sparked controversy. 3. The Israeli parliament has passed a bill restricting the activities of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, within Israel, prompting criticism and concern from the international community. 4. Portuguese coach Ruben Amorim is expected to take over as manager of Manchester United, with attention on his tactical approach and ability to develop players. 5. Real Madrid is boycotting the Ballon d'Or ceremony, expressing dissatisfaction with the award results, reflecting a political struggle between the club and the award organization. 6. Other news includes Totti considering a comeback, Nottingham Forest facing fines, and injuries to RB Leipzig players. Overall, these reports cover multiple areas including politics, sports, and business, reflecting current hot issues and dynamic changes in the international community. The editor has summarized the key points while highlighting the most valuable information in a concise manner. Washington Post 2024 Presidential Election Report. Summary *. 1. Billionaire Elon Musk is heavily involved in the 2024 presidential election, becoming a key ally of Trump. Musk has funded an independent support group for Trump, America PAC, with $118.5 million and is actively participating in Trump's campaign activities, including hosting rallies in Pennsylvania. 2. The Washington Post announced it will not publish any editorials supporting or opposing candidates in this presidential election, marking the first time in 36 years. This decision has sparked widespread criticism and controversy, including resignations from several senior columnists in protest. 3. This decision is seen as an effort to maintain a good relationship with a potentially victorious Trump. The owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, is believed to be the driving force behind this move. 4. The decision has raised questions about the editorial independence of the Washington Post and the fairness of its news coverage. Concerns have been raised that this may affect the paper's reporting, particularly on Trump. Overall, the Washington Post's stance in the 2024 presidential election has garnered significant attention and controversy, highlighting the complex role of media in politics. Briefing, Rebellion of University Donors. Main points *. 1. In recent years, some university donors have expressed dissatisfaction with campus protests and the institution's responses, threatening to stop their donations. Prominent donors like Mark Rowan, founder of Apollo Group, and hedge fund founder Bill Ackman have publicly called on other donors to join the no-donation movement. 2. This public donor rebellion has sparked discussions about the extent of donor power. On one hand, donors have the right to stop funding institutions that do not align with their values. On the other hand, excessive donor influence raises public concern. 3. This rebellion has broken the gentleman's agreement between donors and recipient institutions, making donor demands public and exacerbating political polarization on campuses. Some smaller donors have also begun to oppose the positions of larger donors. 4. This rebellion may prompt universities and other institutions to more clearly define the role of donors and introduce more moral clauses to limit donor influence. There are also calls for donors to be more transparent and actively engage in reforming charitable practices. Overall, this donor rebellion highlights significant issues currently facing the charitable donation sector, warranting close attention from all parties involved. Briefing, Financial Times Diversity Leaders Ranking. Since 2019, the Financial Times has annually ranked the 850 companies with the most diverse leadership in Europe based on a survey of over 100,000 employees. This year, they added 3 objective indicators to the existing employee survey. 1. The proportion of women in management. 2. The company's external communication on diversity. 3. The diversity score provided by third-party data provider Denominator. These indicators account for 30% of the total score, while the employee survey accounts for 70%. Employees are asked to evaluate their company's diversity and inclusion practices, as well as the performance of other well-known companies in this regard. To better reflect the voices of marginalized groups, the evaluations of women, seniors, and minorities have been significantly weighted. The survey results show that the highest-scoring companies excel in areas such as age, gender, race, disability, and sexual orientation. Through this comprehensive assessment system, the Financial Times aims to more accurately reflect companies' diversity practices at the employee level and promote ongoing improvements in this area. Briefing: The struggles of transgender rights advocate Gavin Grimm. 1. Gavin Grimm, a 25-year-old transgender man, became a national figure in the LGBTQ+ rights struggle after a legal battle in high school over his right to use a bathroom consistent with his gender identity, ultimately winning in federal court. 2. Despite his legal victory, Grimm faces numerous challenges in real life. He is currently dealing with unemployment and homelessness, suffering from mental health issues such as PTSD and autism. 3. Although Grimm's case garnered widespread attention, he has not received any substantial financial compensation. He now relies on government assistance and support from friends and family to get by, worrying that his cat may also suffer from homelessness. 4. Following Grimm's victory, most states in the U.S. have continued to pass laws restricting the rights of transgender students, such as prohibiting the use of bathrooms that align with their gender identity and participation in sports. These laws highlight that Grimm's victory did not fully resolve the challenges faced by the transgender community. 5. Grimm expressed disappointment in Democrats for failing to actively advocate for transgender rights at the party convention, believing that the current political system cannot achieve true equality for transgender individuals. Nevertheless, he still views voting for Democrats as a form of harm reduction. Overall, Gavin Grimm's experiences reflect the ongoing struggles faced by the transgender community even after legal victories, underscoring the need for further attention and support from society. Briefing: Signs of the Times. This article explores the stories behind news reporting and the challenges and hardships faced by journalists. It emphasizes that news reporting often involves uncovering insider information that powerful figures prefer to keep hidden, requiring journalists to exert tremendous effort and courage to present the truth to readers. The article also describes the political atmosphere in Pennsylvania, a swing state. The author returned to their hometown and found that even in deep blue cities, there are many voters who support the Republican Party. At the same time, it is evident that many ordinary citizens continue to uphold their values and are unwilling to support controversial candidates. Overall, the article highlights the difficulties of journalism while reflecting the complexity of the current political landscape in the United States. It reminds us that even in an environment seemingly divided between red and blue, there are many ordinary people who stand for justice and goodness. Briefing: The importance of portfolio diversification. 1. The importance of portfolio diversification. Over the past 50 years, the average annual real return for U.S. stocks has been 6.8%, while for UK stocks it has been 5.4%, with government bonds and cash yielding lower returns. Investors should consider including bonds in their portfolios, as bond yields have reached historical highs, and with inflation and interest rates likely to decline, bond investments may become an attractive option. Gold can also be part of a portfolio, as investors tend to buy physical gold during crises, providing some insurance for the portfolio. 2. Israel's military strike against Iran. On October 1, Iran launched 180 missiles and drones at Israel, prompting Israel to retaliate with an operation dubbed Day of Atonement, bombing key military and nuclear facility targets in Iran within 4 hours. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed that Iran would pay for its actions, causing panic in the Iranian capital, Tehran. 3. The budget plan of the new UK government. The new UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves stated that tomorrow's budget will open a new chapter of low growth and promise to bring more income to the public. The budget is expected to include taxes on employer social security contributions, inheritance, and capital gains. 4. The relationship between the UK government and Elon Musk. Musk was not invited to this month's International Investment Summit, and he posted on X platform that no one should visit the UK because it released child sex offenders. Labour MP John McDonnell denied ignoring Musk, stating he is in awe of Musk's technological achievements. Overall, these articles cover various aspects including portfolio management, geopolitical conflicts, and policy planning of the new UK government, providing readers with comprehensive information. Briefing: Women's Tour de France route announced for 2023. 1. The route for this year's Women's Tour de France will feature 9 stages, an increase of 1 from previous years, reflecting the rising standards of women's cycling. The race will start in Vannes, Brittany, passing through several famous cities, and concluding in Chartres. The 8th stage, featuring an 18.6 km climb at an 8.1% gradient at the Madeleine Pass, is considered a particularly challenging key stage. The final day's 124 km route also includes several mountainous sections, promising an intense showdown. 2. 21-year-old French tennis star, Giovanni Péchy-Perricard rises to prominence. The 2.03-meter-tall French tennis player has made significant progress this season, winning titles at Wimbledon and the Basel ATP 500. His main weapon is a powerful serve, with 22 aces in the Basel final, but his baseline hitting and movement abilities have also been recognized. This rising star will participate in the Paris Masters this week, generating excitement among French audiences. 3. The Israeli parliament bans UNRWA from operating in Israel. The Israeli parliament passed 2 bills prohibiting UNRWA from conducting activities in Israel and its occupied East Jerusalem. Israel accuses 10% of UNRWA staff of having ties to Hamas or Islamic Jihad but has not provided evidence. This decision has sparked strong international opposition, as UNRWA plays an irreplaceable role in humanitarian aid in Gaza and Palestinian territories. 4. Israeli historian Omer Bartov condemns Israel's actions in Gaza. This Israeli-American historian published an article in The Guardian after visiting Israel, stating he can no longer deny that the Israeli military has committed systematic war crimes, crimes against humanity, and acts of genocide in Gaza. He pointed out that Israeli society shows complete indifference to the suffering of Gaza civilians and criticized Israel for viewing war as its own purpose. Overall, these articles reflect the complex situation of the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On one hand, Israel has made progress in sports events and the rise of tennis stars, but on the other hand, its military actions in Gaza and suppression of UN agencies have drawn strong international condemnation. The development of these contradictions warrants close attention. Briefing: Farmers in Gaza. 1. Farmer Bassam Abdullah in Gaza harvested a small amount of olives under difficult conditions, which brought him some comfort. Olive trees symbolize the resilience of Palestinians and their attachment to the land. 2. The Israeli army destroyed the 2,000 square meter farm of 76-year-old Amran Suleiman, who feels that losing his olive trees means losing hope for his homeland. Olive trees represent land and cultural traditions for Palestinians. 3. Gaza now has fewer than 380,000 olive trees, with production dropping from 40,000 tons to 7,500 tons. The operational costs for olive oil processing plants have risen sharply, processing only 20 tons of olives daily, down from 100 tons previously. 4. Nicolas Maduro faced isolation at the BRICS summit in Russia. Brazilian President Lula refused to accept Venezuela's membership in BRICS and froze diplomatic relations with Venezuela. Maduro's international standing continues to decline. Overall, these articles reflect the difficult living conditions of farmers in Gaza and the increasing isolation of Venezuelan President Maduro on the international stage. Olive trees hold not only economic value for Palestinians, but also represent their attachment to the land and cultural traditions. Meanwhile, Maduro faces diplomatic isolation from countries like Brazil, leading to a continued decline in his international standing. Briefing: Literary voices at the Frankfurt Book Fair. Summary: In an era filled with anxiety, division, and uncertainty, literature plays an important role as a means of expression and reflection. Turkish author Elif Shafak, in her speech at the opening of the Frankfurt Book Fair, called for literature to become a force that connects hearts and evokes empathy. She emphasized that in a time of information overload and knowledge scarcity, we need to slow down and rebuild wisdom and understanding through literature and the art of storytelling. Additionally, as guardians of memory, writers have a responsibility to unearth forgotten stories and restore the humanity of marginalized groups. Furthermore, commentators have debated whether Trump can be viewed as a fascist. Some argue that Trump's actions and rhetoric fit the definition of fascism, while others believe he lacks sufficient ideological depth and rationality. This debate about Trump's nature reflects the complexity and division of the current American political landscape. Overall, in this time of anxiety and uncertainty, the power of literature and storytelling is particularly important. Writers should continue to speak out, connecting hearts and evoking empathy to bring hope and a spirit of resistance to the world. Briefing: Italy's new government's offshore asylum center plan. Main points *. 1. Italy's new government has launched an offshore asylum center plan, transferring some illegal immigrants to Albania for processing. This plan will start in November 2023, with Italy paying Albania €160 million annually, hoping to process 3,000 immigrants monthly in Albania. 2. This plan has sparked widespread controversy. The European Court ruled that unless an entire country is deemed safe, no non-EU country can be considered a safe country. As a result, this plan has already faced setbacks, with 16 immigrants being ordered back to Italy. 3. Despite facing legal challenges, this model has garnered attention in Europe, with even the President of the European Commission suggesting the possibility of establishing return centers outside the EU. This reflects an increasingly conservative attitude among European countries regarding refugee issues. 4. Overall, this plan has generated significant controversy, with its legality and feasibility being questioned. However, it reflects the increasingly conservative stance of European countries on refugee issues, which is a stark contrast to the open-to-all asylum seekers ideal envisioned a decade ago. China's aviation industry is developing rapidly, with the domestic ARJ-21 aircraft making its first flight on the route from Indonesia to Guangzhou, marking a step towards the international market for domestic civil aviation. Meanwhile, Chinese scientists have conducted new research on the formation history of the Taklamakan Desert, discovering that it formed around 3 million years ago, making it older than the Badain-Jaran and Tingir deserts in Inner Mongolia. This finding helps us better understand the formation processes of deserts in the mid-latitude regions of Asia. Additionally, Saudi Arabia is actively promoting an energy transition, moving from reliance on oil to a comprehensive shift towards clean energy and significantly developing renewable energy. This transition strategy reflects Saudi Arabia's determination to address climate change and achieve sustainable development. Overall, these reports reflect the latest developments in China's aviation industry, climate change research, and energy transition in the Middle East, providing readers with comprehensive and vivid information. Briefing: Japan's 2024 election. On October 29, 2024, Japan held a heated election. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, led by new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, may fail to secure a majority in the House of Representatives, marking the worst election result for the LDP since 2009. According to polls, the conservative LDP and its small coalition parties may not reach the majority threshold of 233 seats in the House of Representatives. This would severely undermine Ishiba's position, forcing him to seek other coalition partners or lead a minority government. Some media speculate that Ishiba may resign immediately, becoming the shortest-serving prime minister in post-war Japan. Voter dissatisfaction stems from inflation and the funding scandal involving former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Ishiba has promised to revitalize rural areas and address Japan's declining population, which he refers to as a silent emergency. However, he has softened his stance on some issues, appointing only 2 women ministers in his cabinet. In many constituencies, LDP candidates are neck-and-neck with candidates from the second-largest party, the Constitutional Democratic Party, CDP, led by former Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda, whose platform is similar to that of the LDP and is seen as an alternative choice. Overall, this election poses a severe test for Ishiba and his LDP. Regardless of the outcome, Ishiba's prospects for governance do not look promising. Briefing: Major explosion at temple in southern India. 1. A massive explosion occurred at a temple in southern India, injuring over 150 people. The incident took place near the Vilakawad temple in the Kasaragod district, where a facility storing fireworks caught fire and exploded. The injured have been taken to local hospitals for treatment, with 8 in serious condition. 2. ByteDance founder Zhang Yiming has become the richest person in China, with a personal fortune of $49.3 billion. This is primarily due to ByteDance's global revenue growth of 30% to $110 billion last year. Meanwhile, the wealth of some real estate and renewable energy entrepreneurs has declined. 3. A Japanese non-profit organization, Metanoia, is conducting a crowdfunding campaign to establish permanent Japanese language classrooms in Tokyo and Saitama Prefecture to provide language support for children from foreign backgrounds. The organization currently operates 9 temporary classrooms in these areas, serving about 200 children, but demand has exceeded existing space and time. 4. Some Japanese companies are organizing training programs for male employees to experience menstrual pain to enhance understanding and empathy towards female employees. A Cabinet Office survey indicates that providing menstrual leave can improve the working environment for women. 5. A newly formed Conservative Party in Japan secured a leading position in the House of Representatives elections, primarily due to support from middle-aged male voters. The party gained proportional representation seats in the Tokai and Kinki regions. Voter surveys show that 69% of supporters of the Conservative Party are male, with ages concentrated in the 50s to 60s. Briefing: Trust in government declines in Australia. Australians experienced strict lockdown measures during the pandemic, leading to a significant decline in public trust in the government. Surveys indicate that 1 in 5 people would not get vaccinated with government-provided vaccines in future health emergencies, and only 1/3 of people expressed high trust in the federal government's actions during the pandemic's peak. Additionally, the report highlights other noteworthy news. 1. Australia rejected the visa application of right-wing commentator Candace Owens, citing her ability to incite controversy. 2. Over 60 climate change scientists warned that corporate carbon offset projects used to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions are ineffective and hinder the energy transition. 3. Reports indicate that Jeff Bezos, owner of The Washington Post, faces increased criticism as executives from his space company met with Donald Trump on the same day The Washington Post was barred from publishing an editorial supporting Kamala Harris. Overall, these reports reflect the declining trust of the Australian public in the government and corporations, as well as some controversial political and environmental issues. Briefing: Conservative Party's housing policy proposal. 1. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre proposed that if his party wins the next election, it will eliminate the Federal Goods and Services Tax, GST, on new homes priced under $1 million Canadian dollars. This measure aims to stimulate real estate construction, as developers would pass on the savings to buyers. 2. This proposal has been welcomed by real estate developers and non-profit organizations, who believe it will help lower housing prices and increase the supply of affordable housing. However, the impact of this policy may be limited in the most expensive markets like Vancouver and Toronto. 3. Poilievre stated that this tax relief will cost $8 billion Canadian dollars and will be funded from existing housing acceleration and infrastructure funds. The Liberal government has indicated that this could harm ongoing projects and potentially lead local governments to raise property taxes. 4. Overall, this conservative housing policy aims to stimulate real estate construction and lower housing prices, but its actual impact remains to be seen. This will also become an important topic in the next election. Briefing: International volunteers in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Key information *. 1. On October 6, 2024, Australian social worker Helen O'Sullivan witnessed the death of Turkish-American activist Aysenur Özgay Agi, who was shot in the head by the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, during a protest against settlement expansion in the West Bank village of Beta. 2. Agi was a young, beautiful, and brave volunteer who was unarmed at the time. The Israeli military claimed it was an accidental shooting, but Agi's family is calling for an independent investigation. 3. O'Sullivan stated that she and Agi were just novices and did not realize the situation would be so brutal. They had hoped that the presence of international volunteers would help reduce the violence of the Israeli military against Palestinians. 4. On the same day, another 13-year-old Palestinian girl, Bana, was also killed by the Israeli military in a separate incident. O'Sullivan felt anger and despair, believing this is part of the daily life of Palestinians under Israeli occupation. 5. O'Sullivan expressed her commitment to continue sharing Agi's experiences in the West Bank, hoping the world will recognize this as a serious atrocity that needs condemnation and sanctions. Summary *. This article reports on the tragic event witnessed by Australian social worker O'Sullivan, where Turkish-American volunteer Agi was accidentally shot dead by the Israeli military during a Palestinian protest. The article highlights Agi's innocent identity and O'Sullivan's anger and despair over the violent actions of the Israeli military. O'Sullivan vows to continue advocating for Agi, hoping to draw international attention and condemnation. Briefing: Manchester United's ongoing trust crisis. 1. Manchester United is in a prolonged trust crisis, and the decision to sack coach Erik ten Hag on October 28 is seen as a mistake. It may have been more appropriate to dismiss him after the Coupe de France final, where he led the team to victory against a strong Manchester City, allowing him to leave with recognition. 2. The Singapore government will inject up to 20,000 new vehicle quota certificates, COEs, across 5 vehicle categories starting February 2025. This is in response to changing traffic patterns, with total mileage declining by about 6% from 2019 to 2023. The new electronic road pricing system will better manage congestion and vehicle usage. 3. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the South African-American billionaire owner of the Los Angeles Times, blocked the paper from endorsing vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris earlier this month, sparking strong backlash from readers. Soon-Shiong explained that the editorial team was given the opportunity to objectively analyze each candidate's policies but chose to remain silent, and he accepted that decision. Subsequently, the editorial head, Mariel Garza, resigned. 4. Soon-Shiong's daughter, Nika Soon-Shiong, has been accused of intervening multiple times with the Los Angeles Times editorial team. She holds a degree from Stanford University and is pursuing a doctorate at Oxford University, speaking multiple languages. Nika's family and educational background have drawn public attention. Briefing: Apple and Intel's financial forecasts. 1. Apple is expected to report its largest quarterly revenue growth in 2 years this quarter, with iPhone demand performing well at the end of its annual release cycle, particularly in the Chinese market. However, attention will be focused on comments from executives regarding the first fiscal quarter, as concerns about the slow rollout of Apple Intelligence features may dampen expectations for Apple's most important product's anticipated super cycle. 2. Intel is expected to report its largest quarterly revenue decline in 5 quarters, which may indicate further erosion of its market share in data centers and personal computers. Investors hope Intel's CEO will provide more information about the company's latest manufacturing technology rollout plans. 3. For Indian Americans, Diwali is an important festival that embodies the fusion of family and cultural traditions. Author Hetal Vasavada's new book, Desi Bakes, combines elements of Western baking styles and traditional Indian desserts, reflecting her identity as a first-generation Indian American. 4. According to the latest polls, nearly half of American voters believe the U.S. democratic system does not represent the interests of ordinary people well, with 3/4 of voters feeling that democracy is under threat, and a majority believing there are corruption issues in the country. This distrust in the democratic system stems from a series of events in recent years, such as the violent storming of the Capitol after the 2020 presidential election and Trump's ongoing denial of the democratic process. These challenges intertwine with ongoing inflation, culture wars, and geopolitical crises, leading 58% of voters to believe that the U.S. financial and political systems need significant reform or complete overhaul. Briefing: India and Spain collaborate on C-295 military aircraft manufacturing. 1. India and Spain have jointly opened a C-295 military aircraft manufacturing plant in Vadodara, marking India's first military aircraft final assembly line established by the private sector. This project will see Airbus Spain deliver 16 aircraft by 2026, with the remaining 40 to be manufactured by India by 2031. 2. The Israeli Defense Forces claim to have concrete evidence that at least 6 Al Jazeera journalists are members of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. These journalists are accused of participating in activities including rocket launching, sniping, and training commands. Al Jazeera has denied these allegations, stating that Israel is attempting to obstruct their reporting on the realities in northern Gaza. 3. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad has been hospitalized due to a respiratory infection but has since been discharged. Mahathir is the longest-serving Prime Minister in Malaysia's history, having held office twice, from 1981 to 2003 and from 2018 to 2020. During his tenure, he helped transform Malaysia into a high-tech product exporting nation but faced accusations of undermining democracy and suppressing dissent. In 2022, Mahathir suffered his first electoral defeat in the parliamentary elections on Langkawi Island, marking his first electoral loss in over half a century.